Introduction by members. Minister of Tourism and Culture.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, it's Tourism Week in British Columbia, indeed across Canada, and I'm just so excited to welcome some leaders of the 127,000 strong workforce that provides tourism opportunities in our province. Would the House please join me in welcoming Anthony Everett, CEO of For Tourism Vancouver Island, Brian Kant, Vice President with Tourism Vancouver Island, Paul Hawes with the BC Hotel Association, Kathy McRae, co-chair of the Adventure Tourism Coalition, and a special welcome. Members may have heard that up on the North Island, a very special tourism location. I'd urge you to visit it when you get a chance. Telegraph Cove, there'd been a fire over New Year's, very much damaging some of the businesses and incredible attractions there. They fought back, they stood up, they're building those businesses back, and they want you to all know they're open for business, and they hope you come visit them up in Telegraph Cove as well. So please welcome Madison Tremblay with the Telegraph Cove Resort. Happy Tourism Week. Invite your friends.
Member for Abbotsford West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like my wife to stand up so I can embarrass her. We have the thrill of enjoying our two grandchildren, our grandson Barrett, who's 5, and granddaughter Everly, who's 2. Thank you for raising 4 great kids. I was going to say helping me raise, but let's be truthful. For raising our 4 children. Thanks for standing by me through all the twists and turns, highs and lows of life. It's made our bond stronger. My greatest gift is your love for me. Let's welcome her to the House, please.
Member of North Vancouver Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joining us today in the Members' Gallery is Her Excellency Dato Dr. Sazalina Zainal Abidine, and accompanying her is the Consul General of Malaysia at in Vancouver, Mr. Mohad Afandi bin Abu Bakr. This is Dr. Sazalina's first official visit to Victoria, and I had the pleasure of having lunch with Her Excellency and the Consul General, hosted by you, Mr. Speaker. I also had the honour of attending Open House Malaysia style yesterday in Vancouver, which was a wonderful event. They will be meeting with some of my colleagues and the Premier later today, and would this House please make our guests feel most welcome.
Member for Esquimalt-Colwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone in the House for welcoming me back and for all the kind words that I receive via email, via messages from not just the people in this House, but across British Columbia. Thank you.
Member for Kelowna Mission.
Mr. Speaker, the prospect of crime and violence leaves communities in fear for the safety of themselves and their families. That's where North Cowichan councillors Tech Manhas, Mike Callio, and Bruce Finley come in, as well as Travis Berthume, the owner of Duncan's Dairy Queen. These 4 are founders of Clean Up V9L, a founding member of the Save Our Streets Coalition, which seeks to support government in implementing solutions to ensure our communities and business districts remain safe places to live, work, and play. Would everyone please make them feel very welcome?
Member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I have the honor of welcoming my husband, Darcy, into this House for the first time, as well as our family who's traveled all the way from Duncan to be here, Darshan, Jackie, Alana, and the most special guest, Rosie, who went on a wonderful tour of the House today and wore her special princess dress for the occasion. So if you will all join me in, please make them feel welcome.
Member for Prince George Mackenzie.
Mr. Speaker, I feel it's my duty to keep you informed of WHL playoff action in the city of Prince George. Tonight, the Prince George Cougars will be Game 7 against the Portland Winterhawks, and I'd ask the House to please join me in cheering on our Prince George Cougars tonight.
Member for Cowichan Valley.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'd also like to welcome my former colleagues, North Cowichan councillors Callio, Finley, and Manhas. Will the House make them feel welcome? It's really nice to see you today.
Minister of Forests.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. I've got a couple of sets of introductions. Firstly, in the gallery today, we have Sean Pettipas, the Director of Corporate Purpose and Mobility Marketing at BCAA, as well as Sam Green, the Marketing and Content Specialist at BCAA, alongside Alex McDonald. They are here to raise awareness for their Fireweed Pin campaign. Many members of the House are wearing a campaign that raises funds for Resilient Minds, a CMHA program that offers mental health supports to fire service workers, and the United Way's Wildfire Recovery Fund. It's a beautiful pin that was designed by Charlene Johnny, a Coatsan tribes artist, and so I hope the members of this House will join me in making them feel very welcome today. They're just right up there. I don't see them up here, but they're somewhere, maybe behind me. I had lunch with the Victoria Bengali community today. It was such an honor just a couple of years ago to get an invitation to one of their events, and I kept coming back. I know some of my colleagues, like the MLA for Victoria Swan Lake, was able to join, and the Mother Language Tongue Day event just a few weeks ago, and so I hope you'll join me. For many of them, this is their first time watching Question Period. First time in the House. There they are. We have Shabal Datta, Tapadi Datta, Shobnam Sultana, Arup Chakrabarti, Arjun Banik, Nirban Mandal, and Rajiv Kumar Das. Will the House please join me in making this incredible group very welcome?
Member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also have a very special birthday wish to give to my younger brother, Amardeep, who turned 30 today. Just wishing you all the best. Welcome to your 30s, and I hope this is good enough of a birthday present for you.
Member for Prince George North Caribou.
I'd like to advise the House of the birthday of the member from, oh, my mind has gone blank, Abbotsford Mission, and wish her all the very best for her birthday. And if you want to join me in singing happy birthday, I'd be up for it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, member for Abbotsford Mission. Happy birthday to you.
Madam Clerk.
Introduction of bills. Statements by members.
Member for Victoria Swan Lake.
Honourable Speaker, every corner of this province offers something unforgettable. Whether strolling in our City of Gardens here in Victoria, storm watching on the west coast of Vancouver Island, seeking the thrill of observing wildlife in the Cariboo-Chilcotin Coast, or relaxing in a mountain chalet in the Kootenays. Whether tasting award-winning wines in the Okanagan and Cowichan Valleys, cheering on athletes at the Invictus Games and FIFA World Cup, or stargazing and learning about Indigenous knowledge based on observations of the night sky. With breathtaking landscapes, vibrant cities, and rich cultures, British Columbia truly has something for everyone. Today marks the beginning of Tourism Week here in BC and a time to celebrate the rich offerings of our province and to thank the people and businesses that drive our tourism industry with their energy, passion, and exceptional hospitality. Their hard work strengthens our communities and makes BC a world-class destination. Tourism is an economic powerhouse with nearly 17,000 businesses and 126,000 people employed. It contributes $22.1 billion in annual revenue and $9.7 billion to our GDP. Tourism is one of our largest small business generators, and Indigenous tourism is one of the fastest growing parts of the sector. Over the past 4 years, our government has invested a record $500 million to ensure our tourism industry remains strong and resilient. Destination BC markets our province globally, sharing our super natural British Columbia brand with visitors from around the world. And we continue to welcome everyone to visit. So this week, As always, let's champion tourism, a great source of pride for our province, and recognize the incredible people who make BC such a welcoming and inspiring place to visit. Thank you.
Member for Skeena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today filled with pride to mark a historic milestone for my riding of Skeena and for our province. Last week, the very first LNG carrier safely reached Kitimat. This marks a critical step forward in the commissioning process, as the LNG on board will be used for equipment testing and system cool down, bringing us one step closer to first exports from LNG Canada. This isn't just a technical milestone, it's the result of more than a decade of vision, persistence, and collaboration. One of the proudest moments of my life was on my birthday, October 1st, 2018, when the final investment decision for Phase 1 of LNG Canada was announced. After 4 years of working on Kitimat Council to help this project come to life, it was not only the best present I could have asked for, but also a deeply rewarding way to close out my time in local government before entering federal politics. I want to take a moment to recognize some of my colleagues who deserve credit for bringing this vision to life. My predecessor, Ellis Ross, Chief Councillor Crystal Smith, Mayor Phil Gramuth, and both the Haisla Nation Council and District of Kitimat Council, past and present. Their continued vision, strength, advocacy, and commitment to the responsible development of our region made this milestone possible. Mr. Speaker, the benefits of this project for Skeena cannot be overstated. It has brought jobs to our region, created training and apprenticeship opportunities, generated spin-off benefits for local businesses, and provided a new source of revenue for municipalities and First Nations alike. Just as importantly, it has laid a collaborative framework that others can now follow, such as Cedar LNG, the first Indigenous majority-owned LNG export facility in Canada. In terms of environmental standards, marine safety protocols, and partnership models, LNG Canada has paved the way for more projects to move forward with confidence, credibility, and community support. This project is not only about energy, it's about economic reconciliation, responsible development, and long-term prosperity. It's about Canada playing a role on the global stage and helping reduce emissions by displacing coal with cleaner, lower-emission natural gas. I'm so incredibly proud of what this means for our people and our future. We are not just witnessing history, we are building it.
Member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise today to recognize Green Shirt Day, which highlights the incredible impact that organ and tissue donors have across Canada. This year marks the 6th anniversary of the first Green Shirt Day. Our government and BC Transplant continue to encourage people to make the important choice to improve access to life-saving transplants by registering their decision on organ donation. One organ donor has the potential to save up to 8 lives. In 2018, Logan Boulette was among the 16 people who tragically lost their lives in a bus crash. Just 5 weeks before that fateful day, Logan had registered to be an organ donor. Thanks to his decision, 6 people received life-saving transplants. His selfless act became the catalyst for the first Green Shirt Day, a movement that continues to inspire Canadians across the country to embrace organ donation. In BC, in 2024, 481 people received a transplant from 90 living and 118 deceased donors. There are currently more than 6,400 British Columbians that are alive today because of the selfless gift of life from donors across the province. There is more work to do. Although 90% of British Columbians support organ donation, only about 1/3 have registered their decision on organ donation. I encourage everyone to take 2 minutes, the time that it takes to listen to this speech, to register as an organ donor. The website is easy to remember, registeryourdecision.ca. I invite all members to reflect on the importance of this day and the importance of words we use in this House to center the experience of donors and their families. On behalf of our government and BC Transplant, I want to thank all the amazing people that have chosen to give the most amazing gift, the gift of life. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Member for Prince George Valemount.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'm pleased to talk about a new and much-needed recovery house that is now operating in Prince George. Set Free Recovery offers a Christian faith and abstinence-based treatment model. 20 years ago, while living in the Lower Mainland, Richard and Angie, the operators, saw a need in response, and they created and founded a Christian charitable ministry in the Fraser Valley. The ministry grew from the basement of their home to serving and helping men in recovery at 10 sites throughout the Fraser Valley. They designed a program based on their own journeys of recovery. It was and remains grounded in personal experience and the belief that the most effective way to overcome addiction is to build faith through hope and to completely refrain from using mind-altering substances. The program offered wraparound treatment, including aftercare upon successful completion of the 4 phases: intake stabilization, reintegration, developing your recovery, and continuing your recovery, all 30-day minimums. It was an in-depth self-discovery and Christ-centered program that was very structured, goal, and accountability focused. It included topics like recovery challenges, relapse prevention, introduction to boundaries, effective communication, and the development of personal, emotional, and life skills. Aftercare offered a safe, drug-free environment. The men could call their home, further developing their recovery skills while working or going to school. After 20 years, Richard and Angie stepped down from that ministry to fulfill another vision, bringing recovery to Prince George, where Richard's own addiction started 39 years ago. Set Free Recovery is the first Christian recovery ministry in the North. Within 6 months of returning to Prince George, they opened their first site. They want to expand and are looking for rental opportunities both in and out of town to increase the number of program spaces available. I would like to extend a heartfelt thanks to Richard and Angie for their commitment to offer BC residents another recovery option. I wish them much continued success and welcome them to Prince George.
Member for Burnaby North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mental health and addiction is no laughing matter, but for some, laughter is a lifeline. Last year, I attended a stand-up comedy show performed by people recovering from mental health and addiction issues, and they were very funny. They were performing as participants in a program called Stand Up for Mental Health. While Stand Up for Mental Health is not intended as therapy, the program has helped hundreds of people overcome long-standing depression and phobias. It has helped them overcome the stigma associated with addiction and build their self-confidence. In the words of Stand Up for Mental Health founder David Grenier, there is something incredibly healing for the comics to tell a room full of people exactly who they are and have the audience laugh and cheer. David, who is himself a stand-up comic and suffers from a bipolar disorder, founded Stand Up for Mental Health in 2004. He got the idea by watching students in his Langara comedy clinic class. While the class had nothing to do with mental health, he observed students having life-changing experiences. The initial Stand Up for Mental Health program is 6 months long. Comics do 2 shows, a debut and a grad show. After completing the initial program, comics can enter the Stand Up for Mental Health alumni program to continue to perform. David and the program have been widely recognized. He has received the Meritorious Service Medal from the Governor General. He's trained more than 700 mental health comics who have performed for the military, corporations, unions, colleges and universities, even the U.S. Secret Service. In closing, Mr. Speaker, and also in David Grenier's own words, people with mental health issues are always being told what they can't do. In Stand Up for Mental Health, the public sees what they can do. Thank you.
Member for West Kelowna Beachland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to share a personal experience and express my deepest appreciation for the exceptional work of the emergency services in Victoria. This past Friday, as the sun was shining and spring had arrived in full force, I found myself walking through the bustling streets of downtown Victoria. People were out enjoying the beautiful day, cycling, walking, driving, and the downtown core was vibrant with activity. However, in an instant, my attention was drawn to a tragic event. A cyclist was struck by a pickup truck right in front of me. Within moments, a crowd gathered to assist, but it was the immediate response of our emergency services that truly stood out. I immediately called 911, and I must say, the professionalism I encountered from both the Victoria Police Department dispatcher and the BC Ambulance Service dispatcher was remarkable. They were not only courteous and respectful, but they demonstrated genuine care for the cyclists' well-being. They guided me on the best course of action and ensured that my safety as well as that of the cyclists was prioritized. And within mere minutes, despite the heavy Friday traffic, the fire department, Victoria Police, and BCAS arrived on the scene. The response was swift, thorough, and professional. The firefighters were quick to stabilize the situation, BCAS provided immediate medical care, and Victoria Police launched their investigation with professionalism and efficiency. As a former police officer with 20 years' experience, I can say with confidence that the response time, the coordination of services, and the professionalism displayed by these dedicated men and women were exceptional. It is clear to me that Victoria's emergency services are second to none. This kind of quick and coordinated response is a testament to the high-quality service provided by our first responders. It is important that we, as a province, recognize and appreciate the hard work, dedication, and skill of our police officers, paramedics, firefighters, and dispatchers who go above and beyond every single day to protect our communities. On behalf of all British Columbians, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to the Victoria Emergency Services and to all those who serve across our province. Your commitment to keeping us safe and your professionalism in times of crisis are deeply appreciated, and thank you for your service. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Madam Clerk.
Oral questions by members.
Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. BC's forest sector is in crisis. Mill closures and job losses have been the hallmark of this NDP government for 8 years. Last year, I warned about the increase in the duties, and here we are now facing the 34% increase that we knew about a year ago. The NDP, what have they done? Well, absolutely nothing in 8 years. You can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. Mr. Speaker, we put forward a serious proposal, hit U.S. coal shipments with a carbon tax until a softwood lumber agreement is reached. A real tool to help give BC leverage and to be able to support our forestry workers. So a simple question to the Premier. Will the Premier please tell the people of BC what his new Liberal puppet master, Mark Carney, has told him to say on this file?
Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I mean, obviously, the President's attack on our forest sector, one that he has been committing to deliver since he was elected, says he doesn't need our wood, says that, we know that's not true. 1 in 10 sticks of lumber in the U.S. comes from BC. $7 billion last year alone. He says that he is going to do a national security investigation of our timber industry, which is obviously ludicrous and absurd. And we'll stand with the forest industry. I was up there in Prince George on Friday with COFI, the Council of Forest Industries, hearing firsthand from the forest sector about their recommendations about responding to this. Ministry staff are currently working on a proposal to defer stumpage revenue for forest sector to give them some relief. We expanded the vehicles that can be used to move pulp more economically. We are using resources internally to advocate for BC wood products internationally, diversify markets. We've got more to do. And I thank the member for his support for the sector. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Leader of the Official Opposition, supplemental.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I heard the Premier's speech up in Prince George, and unfortunately it was awfully short on any kind of details. But the reality is it's been 8 years, and the NDP have delivered nothing but federal talking points and nothing but doing damage to BC's critical forest industry. Look, mills are shutting down, workers are being laid off, and companies are shifting their operations to the U.S. And at the Council of Forest Industries, I heard many other stories around that. For example, the Vancouver-founded and Delta-based furniture manufacturer Prepack shuttering its operations after 45 years and moving to the USA. Other companies that I spoke with up at COFI talked about the fact that they've been operating for decades in British Columbia, and now all of their workers are south of the border. They're still leaving their company here, but they aren't having any hope whatsoever of being able to operate in British Columbia. It's been 8 years of NDP failure on the forestry file, and like I say, you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. How can the forest workers of BC truly believe that this NDP government can do anything but deliver more decline and job losses?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Our industry is under direct attack right now by the President of the United States, by Donald Trump.
Member, he has just barely started. Take your time. Member, take it easy. Premier will continue.
This is a sector that has faced huge challenges. Pine beetle, changing. Sorry, Honourable Speaker, this is an industry that lost more than 10,000 jobs under the BC Liberals, so I won't take any advice from the member that's heckling. Pine beetle.
Member, are you
going to stand up and ask a
listening
question?
to answer or not?
This is a serious issue. Pine beetle, wildfire, right now very low timber prices, and a president committed to destroy the industry. Now's the time for all members of this place to stand together against President Trump and his attacks, not just on our softwood industry, but Ontario's. The bleachers, Honourable Speaker. Not just stand up for our softwood industry, but Ontario's auto industry, for the manufacturing industries of all of our provinces. We're under attack right now. What do we see from the Conservatives? See MLA for Shuswap tweet out a graphic advocating Western separatism, that our province should become a protectorate of the United States. These are the ideas that are coming from the Conservatives to respond to these attacks from the President. They can't even stand together to condemn the President's actions. I would invite a motion where we all stand together to condemn the President, because we did that and they didn't vote for it, Honourable Speaker.
Leader of the Official Opposition, second supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, very simply, the Premier wants to blame Donald Trump, but the reality is these additional doubling of the duties were planned last year before Trump was in office, and nothing from this government, absolutely nothing. He wants to blame Trump for the job losses. The reality is they lost close to 20,000 jobs under the NDP, even though they promised they wouldn't be closing mills. Mr. Speaker, how can this be seen as anything but a complete failure by this government? They talk about wanting value added, but the reality is you can't add value when there is no jobs and there is no thing. So when will this government actually take our forest sector seriously and become a champion for what is a cornerstone industry for this province?
Minister of Forest.
Well, thanks very much. Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. First of all, on this side of the House, we are not going to take a lecture from a former Minister of Forests who was part of a government that saw 45,000 jobs lost in our forest sector. Mr. Speaker, I was in West Kelowna a couple of weeks ago and I met a guy named Bill. He's been working at the Gorman Brothers Mill for 48 years. I did get a picture with a member across the way because that guy matters to me. When we talk about tariffs, these are not decimal points. These are lives that are being impacted. Bill has been working his butt off for 48 years. 48 years he's been supporting his family. He's been supporting the people of West Kelowna. And Donald Trump is attacking his livelihood. That's why on this side of the House, we are going to step up, as we have been. We are not going to let Donald Trump attack our forest sector. We are not going to let...
Every time you mention Donald Trump, they get upset.
It's like every time we mention Donald Trump, these guys freak out as if they're defending him. What is going on? Mr. Speaker, let me be crystal clear.
Shh. Members.
Let me be crystal clear. We are not going to let Donald Trump attack our forest sector. We are not going to let Americans take paychecks away from our forestry workers. On this side of the House, we're going to stand up for our forest sector like we've done ever since we formed government.
Member for Kamloops North Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The NDP knew that these softwood lumber duties were scheduled to increase long before the tariffs were a threat, and that wasn't a surprise. It's inexcusable that they've done nothing to shield BC businesses with that impact. While this government talks about economic strategy, BC businesses are overwhelmed by increased costs, red tape, and trade barriers. Why did this Premier take a 4-month holiday instead of working on a plan to protect BC workers?
Minister of Forests.
Maybe the kids in the basement need a raise because that was a terrible question, Mr. Speaker. Holy smokes. Well, let's just be very crystal clear. We're going to stand up for the forest sector on this side of the House. It's why the Premier met with the Prime Minister today and made it very clear that the federal government has to step up. When we are talking about the auto sector in Ontario, the federal government brings dollars to the table. We need to ensure that those same dollars are being brought to British Columbia and supporting our forest sector. It's why on my first day, member across the way, I sent a letter to my federal counterparts asking them to use every tool in their toolbox to stand up for our forest sector, including developing a loan guarantee program. This is not something that was thought of just by our government. This was something we've been working with the industry on, with the BC Lumber Trade Council. It's something I reiterated to my federal counterpart last night in conversation with him, and something the Premier has raised as well. Trade diversification, I couldn't agree more. Why did the federal government cut funding for trade diversification 2 years ago to Crown agencies like FII? On this side of the House, we are working hard to ensure that we are expanding markets. It's why we've got more boots on the ground, having conversations in other parts of the world. It's why we're working with industry to ensure that we can increase value-added opportunities and get more BC-made wood products to places like Japan, to Korea, to India and Europe. On this side of the House, we're going to continue doing this important work.
Member for Kamloops North Thompson supplemental.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yes, we can walk the walk or talk the talk, but when the minister talks about being involved in the industry, I'm speaking from experience, not just from a book, okay? I don't necessarily need to go on a listening and learning tour, because I heard clear and concise last week at Kofi what is necessary for this industry. Kofi released a competitive sustainability release last week that said our harvest levels have declined annually by 6.5% over the last 10 years. Our forest sector has also had the sharpest GDP drop in among all the regions studied. So we know the minister won't listen to us, but he will at least listen to Kofi and implement all of their strategic action plans that they outlined in their April 2025 report.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when I became the Minister of Forests, I recognized that I didn't come from the forest sector. I didn't work in this industry for many decades like the member across the way. And so on the day that he was appointed the critic, I sent him a letter. I sent him a letter saying that I'd love to meet with him. I'd love to put partisanship aside. This sector faces big challenges, and I wanted to use the skills that he's gained in his time as a local mayor and his time working in the forest sector to be able to work together. We finally did have a meeting a few months later when he made time for me, and he didn't bring any solutions to the table. So you bet, Mr. Speaker, I will keep listening and learning, because I want to ensure that when we are making decisions...
Minister.
I want to make sure that when we are making decisions on this side of the House, they're founded on the issues that matter to people. People like Bill, people like Jack Gardner, who opened up a new mill in Salmon Arm, taking over the Teal Jones facility just a couple of weeks ago. Those are the people that I've met on the ground that are influencing not just me, but the entire Forest Service. So I will say once again, Mr. Speaker, if the member has any ideas, I welcome them. I'm sure we're going to get a chance to be able to dive through those in estimates, but if he's got time and if he's got ideas, I'd love to hear them.
Leader of the third party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government has weakened a policy that required new LNG export plants to meet net zero emissions by 2030. Last month, the Minister of Energy and Climate Solutions quietly wrote to the Environmental Assessment Office stating that LNG projects are not required to be net zero by 2030, but net zero ready by 2030. If LNG facilities can't connect to the electricity grid by 2030, they don't have to worry about the emissions required to liquefy methane for shipping by, you guessed it, burning methane in vast quantities. Massive provincial spending to expand BC's power supply should be for the benefit of all British Columbians, not the fracked methane LNG export industry. My question is for the Minister of Energy. It seems to be BC Hydro's responsibility to supply electricity to industrial export projects. Who will pay for these connections, and how will it impact taxpayers and electricity ratepayers?
Minister of Energy.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. The letter is a clarification of current policy with respect to new LNG facilities. The LNG facilities must still achieve net zero emissions by 2030, but if grid electricity is not reasonably available by that date, proponents will not be penalized for factors beyond their control. That seems reasonable to me, Honourable Speaker. The policy on new LNG projects remains the same because such a policy is good for the economy, good for the climate, and the right approach to economic development in BC.
Member supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, this policy change represents a concerning shift in the BC government's policies that prioritize LNG development at the expense of BC's climate commitments. For a project like Silicim's LNG, liquefying using fossil gas instead of electricity means another 1.8 million tons of CO2 emissions per year, equivalent to more than 500,000 cars on the road. Now the facility's net zero ready plan could simply ignore those emissions. There's no deadline required for when LNG would actually need to reach net zero. In addition to other breaks, emissions pricing gives a 2-year startup exemption for emissions when gas flaring is at its maximum. My question for the Minister, how much more relaxation of climate policies for the LNG export industry should British Columbians expect and prepare for?
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. LNG facilities must provide a credible net zero plan and reduce all non-electricity emissions. It's that straightforward. The policy was that before the letter. The policy is that now. The clarification only applies if a facility cannot reasonably get grid electricity by 2030, and then the policy does apply. But we are, as the member knows, across BC, engaging in one of the most ambitious clean energy, renewable energy programs in the history of Canada, and we are going to continue to pursue those goals. That's good for our overall economy. The price of renewable electricity is going down, and we think investing now, contrary to what other jurisdictions may be doing, especially those south of the border, is the right thing for our economy and the right thing for BC.
Member for Kamloops Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's been quite the day of evasion of forestry questions by this government. We asked a very direct question about using a levy, a carbon tax levy on dirty American coal coming through our ports to try to leverage a softwood deal. The Premier completely ignored it. The Minister decided to use the NDP gem of every tool in the toolbox. I thought that would have been banished by NDP speaking notes after the Kinder Morgan debacle. But, Mr. Speaker, BC is the highest cost forestry jurisdiction, not just in Canada, but North America, and as best as we can tell, the world. And so when duties are going to spike to over 34%, the damage affects workers like Bill. And I would point out that those duties are set, and the schedule was set out by the Biden-Harris administration. That same Harris that our finance minister proudly campaigned for in September, Mr. Speaker. Companies in BC, forest companies, are shifting their operations to other parts of Canada, other parts of the United States, and instead of fighting to make the forest industry more competitive, this government is chasing away value-added companies as well. Has the Minister of Finance done any analysis at all on how uncompetitive BC's position is in the forest sector, and when can we expect to see that analysis?
Minister of Forests.
Mr. Speaker, thanks very much to the member opposite for the question. I think it is concerning. It's certainly concerning for us on this side of the House that we've yet to see the members opposite condemn the President's decisions to double countervailing duties. We have yet to see that.
Members, Members, come to order. Member, that's enough. Okay, continue, then we'll have a seat. Anybody else?
Forestry workers just got another gut punch of uncertainty this weekend, and workers can't handle anymore. In my riding alone, in the last 4 years, Mackenzie Pulp shut permanently in 2021. Canfor PG Pulp closed in 2023. Bear Lakes Polar Sawmill closed last year, and Northwood Pulp was cut to just one production line. Each of these represents hundreds of jobs. My community is hurting, and forestry families want answers. If this government says they're defending forestry workers, why does it keep getting worse?
Minister of Forests.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. These are serious issues. And I appreciate the member opposite asking the question. I was in his community just a couple of weeks ago. I had an opportunity to be in Mackenzie. Being on the ground, Mr. Speaker, matters to people. You can do Zoom calls here from Victoria, but if you ask Joan Atkinson, the mayor of Mackenzie, it matters to her that the Minister of Forests is in her community, because Mackenzie matters to me. I had an opportunity to work, to meet with Pat Glazier, who owns East Fraser Fibre, and see the operations there. I went and toured Conifex, and I shared with them that because of the work that they've been doing at their forest landscape planning table, they had a request before me for block blending that it looks at finding ways to be able to reduce costs associated with getting fibre from the northern parts of Mackenzie down to those mills. I approved that. I worked with the people at that FLP table because that work matters to me, and Mackenzie matters to me. I know it does to the members opposite sometimes when it's relevant, but I hope it works for the member across the way, and I'd gladly meet with him to talk about the steps that we're taking to support communities like Mackenzie.
Member supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, I know the member is new to his role, but 30 sawmills have closed under this government's watch. That's their record. The Kofi report released last week indicates BC is falling further behind globally. Wood supply security, investment attractiveness, and tax system competitiveness rank the lowest among all regions. With the highest log costs in North America, the ministry is projecting harvest levels dropping to 29 million cubic meters in this government's budget documents. Meanwhile, the minister's mandate is to reach 45 million cubic meters. Real jobs and real people are at stake with these numbers. This minister talks a good game, but will he resign if he can't meet his mandate?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if there's one thing we have learned is we cannot control the President of the United States, and this attack
Members,
wow.
members.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if the members across the way fought for workers the same way they fought for Trump, I would seriously respect them. Now, to the member.
Members.
Mr. Speaker, we've got a lot of work to do before us. It's why the Premier and I were at the Kofi convention talking to people.
Members, are we interested in any answers at all? If you let him finish, it'll be greatly appreciated. Minister.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. Forestry is a very important topic, and I'm glad the members opposite have taken time to be able to raise this issue. I've been waiting for some number of weeks. We laid out a number of initiatives at the Kofi convention, a number of initiatives from the Premier and myself. We provided an update.
Members. Minister will conclude.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we launched a number of key initiatives. We provided an update on our BC timber sales review, ensuring that we're playing a larger role in wildfire. In 2023, we had the worst wildfire season on record in British Columbia. Wow. In 2023, we had the worst wildfire season on record here in British Columbia. In that 1 year alone, we lost 20 years worth of harvestable fiber in this province. That is significant. That is a significant impact. I want to reiterate to the members across the way and to all British Columbians, on this side of the House, we're going to stand up for the forest sector. We're going to ensure that we're restoring confidence in the sector, and we're going to ensure every single day that we're standing up for workers like Bill, because that's our job.
Member for Delta South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the George Massey Tunnel, or the bridge, I should say, I repeat, the George Massey Bridge would have opened 3 years ago. This government abandoned that plan, promising a smaller tunnel project to open in 2030. We've now learned that they refused federal dollars to build it. An insider has shared that the contractor is still in testing phase, facing significant design problems and struggling to determine a viable construction method, all without an environmental assessment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, why would this cash-strapped government refuse federal funding to replace the tunnel?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any more comments? No? Minister can start.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The province has not refused any funding from the federal government. In fact, the province is working with the federal government to ensure that British Columbia gets a significant financial contribution in what is a nation-building project, Honourable Speaker. A $4.1 billion tunnel, Honourable Speaker. There is significant work underway. And we're proud of the work that's being done by British Columbians in getting that ready and building that project. Honourable Speaker, I listened to the member across the way and the opposition wanting to cancel it and go back to a bridge. But you know, Honourable Speaker, we're at a time when we are under a threat from the United States. You know,
members, order.
No, Honourable Speaker. Once again, they demonstrate that they don't listen. Because if they listen to the ports, Honourable Speaker, the ports made it clear they wanted a tunnel, not a bridge, so that they can get ships up the river, Honourable Speaker. Ships to take our goods to overseas markets, Honourable Speaker. Overseas markets that we want to diversify, Honourable Speaker, because of the threats that we find from south of the border, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker. Oh, the member over there says what ships. If he talked to the ports, they'd tell you they want to be able to get ships up the river. A tunnel allows that to happen. Once again,
Member,
that opposition.
Stop it.
That opposition demonstrates why they're sitting over there, we're sitting over here, fighting for British Columbia.
Member of Surrey South.
Mr. Speaker, British Columbians depend on transit, but Schwartz Bay ferry customers who use transit continue to stand exposed to the elements waiting for their buses for the simple lack of cover. Surrey Transit customers, and they are still customers, have to wait for daily for buses that are late or not coming at all. The Surrey Langley SkyTrain station is 1 year delayed and $2 billion over budget. Mr. Speaker, if this minister can't see that day-to-day services are reliably delivered, why should the people of Surrey and Langley believe the minister can complete this absolutely integral project for the fastest growing part of the province?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I thank the member for the question, for the opportunity to give him the same answer that I gave him the last time he asked a question, Honourable Speaker, that if he went to, for example, Fraser Highway on 156
156 in Surrey, he'd see those massive concrete pylons coming out of the ground, Honourable Speaker, on a $4.9 billion project building Star Trek, Honourable Speaker. 16 kilometres of track, Honourable Speaker. 8 new stations, Honourable Speaker. Cutting the time going from Langley City all the way to Surrey Centre to 22 minutes, travelling to Vancouver in an hour, Honourable Speaker, stimulating huge amounts of residential development, Honourable Speaker, people having transit options, Honourable Speaker, a project that they didn't even want to do, Honourable Speaker, the largest investment south of the Fraser in 30 years.
Member for Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, here's one thing we do know. If it ain't over budget, and if it ain't delayed, it ain't NDP. That's true. That is a fact. Now, another fact is the Patello Bridge, again, over budget and delayed. And who's helping with that project? Acciona. The same company, Mr. Speaker, that was fired for the North Shore wastewater plant after it blew billions of taxpayer money. So my question to the minister is a simple one. How can this minister allow a company to oversee a project that has completely, in partnership with this government, wasted billions of dollars of taxpayer money?
Okay, now let him answer, okay? Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, I hear the question from the member, and it reminds me of what they did on this side of the House, Honourable Speaker. If they sell the land, it doesn't get built.
Members, we are almost done. Just a few more minutes, okay?
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. You know, later this year, I am looking forward to the opening of a brand new Patello Bridge, Honourable Speaker. A brand new Patello Bridge that is going to improve traffic options for British Columbians. It's going to improve commerce, Honourable Speaker. It's going to be able to 4 lanes. It's going to have transit for it. But
it's not funny, members. Okay? Minister will conclude.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The only thing, Honourable Speaker, is that opposition. That is the saddest opposition I have seen in my entire time in this place, Honourable Speaker. We are, Honourable Speaker, going to be opening an incredible new Patello Bridge that has trained British Columbia workers, that is going to improve transportation in the Lower Mainland, Honourable Speaker, and is part of the largest capital investment in transportation infrastructure in the history of this province, Honourable Speaker, and we're going to continue to build this province.
The bell and the question period. Member for Camrose Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on a point of privilege. Mr. Speaker, under the Budget Transparency and Accountability Act, government is supposed to provide an accurate reflection of their anticipated tax revenues, expenses, and deficit based on their priorities, economic projections, and tax changes that the government is intending on implementing. Sections 5, 6, and 7, especially Section 7, are very clear in the expectation of accuracy in the fiscal plan to be presented to this House for the purposes of main estimates. To accomplish this, the government provides the budget and main estimates to this chamber. They also present legislation to deal with any changes to the tax structure of BC that will result in what the government feels would create a material change to revenues and tax credits as part of the budget document. This legislation has the changes that tie in directly to the anticipated tax revenues and expenses that the government has projected. On 2 occasions after the March 4th introduction of the budget, government has introduced legislation to enact changes to a variety of taxes in BC. In the case of the tax changes in Bill 5, the Budget Measures Implementation Act, those tax changes have been incorporated into the budget and as a result also their main estimates of that budget. However, the second piece of legislation, created and introduced by this government, Bill 8, Carbon Tax Amendment Act, has not been incorporated into the budget or the main estimates. Mr. Speaker, there are several statements by the Minister of Finance over the last week that have led me to call this point of privilege. When the Minister of Finance was questioned March 31st during the Bill 6 Supply Act 2025 Committee of the Whole debate, the Minister was asked if revenues or expenditures of the government have been adjusted with the introduction of Bill 8. The Minister refused to say if the impacts of Bill 8 had been considered, even though Bill 5 Budget Measures Implementation Act had been considered and was reflected in the budget and also reflected within Bill 6. When the Minister of Finance was asked in Bill 6 Committee of the Whole debate if there would be interim supply estimates or updates due to the significant change of the government's budget, the Minister answered no, but opposition could inquire as part of the estimates process to each minister. This, once again, seems to be in complete contravention of the Budget and Transparency Act, Section 7. Later in the day of March 31st, when the Minister of Finance was asked if there would be program cuts or an increased deficit during Committee of the Whole debate on Bill 8 Carbon Tax Amendment Act, the Minister would not provide any specifics. Mr. Speaker, I recognize privileges to be raised at the first opportunity, which, Mr. Speaker, brings us to question period Thursday, April 3rd, when the Minister of Finance was questioned about the Moody's credit downgrade, citing a deficit growing to $14.3 billion. The Minister answered that the opposition was making up numbers. Mr. Speaker, this projected deficit was in the news statements from Moody's and not created by the official opposition. In fact, in their review of the budget impacts to determine their own downgrade of BC's credit rating, Moody's cited that the removal of the carbon tax would create a $2 billion shortfall. The fact that the Finance Minister refuses to update this chamber with an accurate portrayal of government's intended revenues, expenses, and deficit is quite literally impeding the work of the official opposition and putting BC's credit rating at further risk. Mr. Speaker, one more example of inaccuracies from the Finance Minister is that the government has repeatedly indicated that the Climate Action Tax Credit has been eliminated as a result of Bill 8. However, a check of the Orders in Council webpage published just before entering this chamber shows that the Climate Action Tax Credit regulations are still in effect and was last amended May 13, 2024. The lack of regulatory changes to the Climate Action Tax Credit at a time people are filing their income tax returns and receiving their tax assessments back creates another $1 billion expenditure question unaccounted for in the budget. The request from the official opposition is really quite straightforward. Main estimates should be paused until such a time as the government can provide an accurate depiction of their budget in relation to revenues, expenditures, and deficit based on their own legislation and decisions. Simply put, how can the official opposition properly assess the minister's spending decisions and budget estimates if those same ministers aren't even sure what their own spending plan from government is? It is impossible for the official opposition to properly scrutinize a budget that does not have revenues and expenses in balance. This is not to say that the government needs to provide a so-called balanced budget, but they do need to provide a proper reconciliation of anticipated revenues, the expenses by ministry, and the anticipated deficit. Revenues plus deficit must equal the expenditures, or the official opposition has not been provided a factually accurate reflection of the budget for the purposes of main estimates. Mr. Speaker, I have the Hansard transcripts for your review, as well as the Budget Transparency and Accountability Act and other documents like screenshots of the Order in Council page, the carbon tax regulations as well, for you to consider during your deliberations on this matter. Thank you.
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'd like to reserve my right to respond.
Thank you. Members will take it under advisement and we'll get back to the Minister of Finance later on. Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I reserve my right to raise a question of privilege.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Orders of the day.
Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. In this chamber, I call continued debate in the estimates in the Ministry of Health, and in the Douglas Fir Room, continued debate on the estimates from the Ministry of Education, to be followed by the estimates from the Ministry of Post-Secondary Advanced Education.
Committee chairs.